you're in real trouble.
Stop, don't come near me!
Stop crying, you little baby.
This is a messy room, I'm telling you.
So we are here to talk about the movie The Tortured, directed by Rob Lieberman. Now, I picked this movie up on Blu-ray probably about a year ago now, and I've yet to watch it. I hadn't watched it until last night. Didn't even read the back, so I had no idea what it was about. Now, was it a good movie, or was it torturous to sit through? Anyway, so let me tell you about the plot of this film. This film is almost like a horror film in reverse in a lot of ways. Right at the beginning of the film, we are introduced to a serial killer who kidnaps this young boy, tortures and kills him. And he's caught right at the beginning of the film and sent to prison. Now, the parents of this kid feel the punishment wasn't enough, so they decided to take the law in their own hands and essentially kidnap this child serial killer, and decide they want to kind of like torture him like they thought their son was tortured. And that is pretty much your movie. The majority of this movie is in this kind of like remote farmhouse with these two parents torturing this guy on a table. And that's pretty much it. So it's weird because you don't have that kind of the threat of the bad guy, so to speak, kind of stalking your innocent victims. This is your innocent victims ultimately stalking the bad guy and, you know, making him feel the pain. So it kind of, that's what I mean by it's a kind of horror film in reverse. So let's talk about the positives and negatives of The Tortured. I feel the main positives here, it definitely has a well-produced feel to it. It feels like a Hollywood production. It has good production values. I feel the everything from the lighting, from the camera work, the cinematography, the music, all to a very good standard. And I have to say the acting as well, pretty good here. I would say the two guys who play the parents basically do a great job of really making you feel the pain of losing a child in such a horrific manner. And I think there's a scene at the beginning of the movie where they're ultimately kind of blaming themselves. So the wife is blaming the husband and vice versa. I thought that was really a powerful scene. I thought that's exactly what would happen basically, because you would think I could have done this differently and it would have worked out. So I really liked that scene. It was not actually anything to do with the horror. It was just a good dramatic scene I felt. And then if you are a fan of torture films, then this film is going to be the film for you, because there is a lot of it. Actually, the bulk of this film is this couple torturing this one guy through a variety of means, and some are more graphic than others, but they all look pretty painful. And it kind of does make you somewhat uncomfortable that you're watching this, and it's an interesting dichotomy really, because this guy is on the table is apparently a very bad guy, and so do you feel guilty for kind of like thinking, haha, you deserve all this, or not? You know, this is the thing. So it's an interesting take on the kind of the almost like a vigilante film really to a lot of degrees, and cross between a vigilante film and a horror film really. So the negatives, and there is a big one for this one. The end of this film is where it all falls down in more than one way as well. Now the film introduces a twist that I feel really undoes a lot of this movie, and the reason for it, the twist is quite cheap in the fact that it doesn't really give you any clues leading up to it about what could happen, which I felt was a poor. And there's a couple of misdirects in the movie that when you look back and think, well, why was that said? That doesn't kind of make sense in regards to the twist. And there's so many things without spoiling it for you. Basically, there are things you're thinking that doesn't quite make sense. That person surely would have thought that. This person surely would have done this in that kind of instance. So the twist to me doesn't work on a number of levels. In addition to that, there should have been an additional scene at the end of this film. The closing scene should have been between the police giving some information to another party, basically, to kind of punctuate the twist, but it doesn't happen. And again, it almost feels like the twist has a setup of its own, but then it's not paid off. So that was disappointing. So the end of this film was very, very disappointing, I've got to say.
The only other negative I would say is, when you look at it as a plot overall, not a lot actually happens, to be quite honest. This is not a plot where lots of things happen. The majority of the change, if you like, happens within that first act. The majority of things that happen in this film happen all within that first act. We're introduced to the parents, the child, and the child. The child is kidnapped, tortured, ultimately murdered. The guy is caught, then he's kidnapped. And that all happens in the first act of the film. The remainder of the film is more or less these three people in this farmhouse. There's a few kind of like peripheral things that happen, but the majority of the film is then this farmhouse, and does maybe kind of like veer to being a little dull from time to time. But overall, I feel if you like kind of films like Saw, that kind of thing, Hostel, then you're going to like this film. If you, just for the kind of the torturous effects, the levels of violence here are quite extreme, but also it's an interesting twist in the fact that this is the good guys doing the torturing, so to speak. So it kind of plays with your kind of expectations overall. So overall, I give this movie a 6 out of 10. I think it's somewhat original, but I don't think it was perfectly executed. And the ending as well was terrible. Anyway, have you seen it? What did you think of The Tortured? Leave me a comment, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.